Magic. Perfect then, team. So we are going to start standing up today. So finding a comfortable standing position. I'm going to stand back here so you can see my full body and start to rock forwards and backwards onto the soles of the feet. So I was really interested when so many of you guys were talking about feet because I'm a little bit obsessed with this part of our body because what happens in our feet massively changes everything else that happens in the body. So it was no surprise that when people are talking about, oh yeah, feet, ankles, calves, hips, and even shoulders, the feet can hugely affect how how all those places feel in our bodies. So we're just finding a bit of a rock and roll forwards. If you are super sporty, it's likely that you've got fantastic trainers, probably that hold your foot in quite a stable position, unless you wear barefoot shoes. So what happens when we're doing that is we lose a lot of the senses if we're into the receptors into the feet. So just something as simple as this movement when you're brushing your teeth, um, when you're waiting for the kettle to boil, it can be a really good way just to wake up into the receptors in the feet. And then we're going to bring the feet a little bit wider, let your knees soften and start to find a little shift over from the inside arch and the outside arch of the foot. So just gentle movement, nice. And you'll notice in my body, the rest of my body isn't really moving. So I'm not doing this. I'm not kind of swaying from side to side. I'm letting my knees kind of act as little stabilizers, my shock absorbers working through here. Nice. And then we're going to see if we can draw a little circle. So circling all the way around. Now, a reminder, guys, this might be your first session with me. It might be, you might have been doing a few with me already, but we're always looking to copy the movement, not the shape. So by that, I mean my body is going to make slightly different versions of the shapes that your body might, because I move my body probably differently to how you do. I might sleep in a different position to how you sleep. We're going to change direction and circle around in the other direction. I've probably had a different dinner. I might have slept differently. My bag, I might hold differently on my shoulders, all of which will inform how these shapes look and feel. So we're always looking to copy the movement, not the exact shape. So just kind of helping to get into the soles of the feet. And then we're going to see if we can lift all the toes up, just the toes. Keep the ball of the foot down. So I'm not rocking back and lifting up my heel, lifting up the ball of the foot, just lifting the toes up and then placing all the toes down and really press them down. And then lifting all of the toes up and then pressing them all down. For lots of people, this is a really weird thing to do. We're not used to finding this range of movement in our toes and then pressing them all down. But there's a really interesting little thing that happens with the big toe in particular. So the big toe is connected into the knee, into the hips, and from there into the lower back as well. So what happens in our big toe in particular is hugely going to affect the stability in our legs, how tight our calves are, and our hips as well. So just lifting all the toes and then press all of them down. Now this is a bit of a tricky one. We're going to see if we can just lift. So lift all the toes, ball of the foot down, and then just press the big toe down. And that might be enough, and your brain might go, no, thank you, Esther. What on earth are we doing? It's Wednesday night. But see if you can just lift the big toe. And to begin with, it might be that your body goes, no, thank you. Or it might be that you start to get a little bit of a sensation there, or you might easily be able to do that, all of which is absolutely fine as well. And then we're going to make it a little bit weirder, if it's not weird enough already. So lifting all the toes and just bring the little toe down. Yeah, and for some of us, we'll end up doing that with the legs to do it. Little toe down, lifting up, little toe down. So to begin with, when we first start playing with this sort of thing, this kind of mobility into the foot, what happens is the neural pathways might not be very strong. And so it is something that can improve in time. So it's a good thing to kind of play around with. There are other weird and wonderful things that we can do, but I'm going to leave it at that for now, because that is probably about where our range of movement might be for today. And then from here, we're going to get a little bit more movement through the spine. So chin to the chest, and we're going to roll through. So this is just our every sport stretch session. We're always going to do some spinal articulation. So we're going to roll down as far as we can. Again, your hands might not be down towards the ground, that's fine. Once you've got to your furthest point, you're going to roll all the way back up. Nice. And then we're going to do that again. So chin to the chest. See if, again, what happens sometimes is this. We end up folding down. See if you can roll down. So again, really slow it down. Get all those little nooks and crannies into the ribs, into the shoulders. Keep the knees soft. Forget about trying to touch the ground. And then rolling back up. So we're seeing if we can move as many vertebrae as possible. It's not about how far can I go. Chin to the chest, knees soft, rolling down. So really kind of slumping through the spine to wherever you get to. Good. And then this time we're going to bring the hands down. We're going to come down onto the ground. So from here, we're going to make our way to lying on our backs. And we're going to play around with the pelvic tilt. I'm going to keep bringing the awareness back to the feet as we play around with these movements today, because you'll start to notice how the position of the foot hugely affects other parts of the body. So from here, we've got the lower back, and we're going to press it down onto the ground. So it's like a little bit of a tilt into the pelvis, and then breathing in back into the neutral position. So we're not arching it, we're not lifting it. Breathing out, lower back presses into the ground. Breathing in, find that neutral position. Let's go for 2 more. Lower back presses into the ground, like you're trying to squash something underneath you, and then back into neutral. And then last one, pressing lower back into the ground, and then back into neutral. So we've got that awareness into the pelvis, pelvic tilt. This time, as you press lower back into the ground, press into the big toes and notice where you feel that in your body. So I feel my core start to wake up a bit more when I press into my big toes, and then back into neutral. Exhaling, lower back presses into the ground, press into the big toes. Notice where you feel that in your body. And then back into neutral. Let's go for 1 more. This time we're going to lower back into the ground and then press the feet into the ground. So you might start to feel that perhaps into the hamstrings, perhaps into the glutes a little bit, and then back into neutral. And then from here, let's start to roll up through the spine. So lower back presses into the ground, and we're going to peel the spine up. So again, if this is your first time exploring sport stretch, we're not just kind of lifting up and then down. We're not doing like weird Mr. Bean stuff. We're going to bring lower back into the ground and then roll up bone by bone, coming up towards the shoulders, and then see if you can roll it back down, spine in order. So not just a hinging movement, breathing out, lower back presses into the ground, and then rolling it up towards the shoulders. Again, copy the movement, not the shape. You might stay lower. Awesome. Really doesn't matter. We're looking for that ripple through the spine as you come up and as you ease down. Nice. Now this time, as we bring the spine down onto the ground, we're going to play around with the position of the feet. So I'm going to keep my heels where they are and then turn my toes out. And then I'm going to roll through the spine. So again, same idea, rolling lower back into the ground and then peeling the spine up bone by bone. And then rolling it back down. And notice if that affects how far you come up. Notice if you can feel different parts of the body firing up here a little bit more. Nice. We're going to bring the feet a little bit further away from us. So not kind of huge amount, but just walking the feet a little bit further away. Same movement, lower back pressing into the ground, rolling up. And then rolling it back down. And again, notice, where do I feel that? Are there different muscles starting to wake up here? So in my body, my hamstrings, oh my goodness, are like, okay, come on. Working a lot harder here than when my feet are closer towards the hips. Awesome. This time we're going to bring feet a little bit closer. So back to where they were. And we're going to turn the toes ever so slightly in. So again, not kind of like duck-toed, turning right in, but just a slight rotation, heels slightly further out and the heels quite close in, rolling up through the spine. And then, oh my goodness, like quads of steel. I can feel the hip adductors starting to wake up, muscles inside the thighs, and that's all from the position of the foot. So you'll notice that the position of the foot is going to massively change what happens in the glutes, in the hamstrings, in the quads, in the adductors. And because of that, it's going to affect how stable we feel as we make these movements. So let's bring the feet back parallel. And we're going to take one more rolling up. But just bear that in mind as we kind of move through some of the other exercises that we're going to be looking at. Nice. Let's bring the feet a little bit wider and we're going to drop both knees towards one side. And then take your time to bring the knees through the center as you breathe in and then breathe out towards the other side. Breathing in, knees back into the center. Exhaling, knees towards that first side. And then one more, breathing into the center and breathing out to that second side. Nice. Then take your time to come back into the center. Hands onto the knees. As we breathe out, knees come in, lower back lengthens. As we breathe in, press the knees away. Breathing out, draw the knees in. Breathing in, draw the knees away. Last one. So finding, again, tilt into the pelvis. Don't try and say that too quickly, my goodness. We are going to make our way up to seated. So you can do that by rolling to the side. If you're able to, and if it feels good in your body, I highly recommend rocking and rolling. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't recommend rocking and rolling. It's an excellent idea most of the time. Nice. Again, as long as it feels comfortable in your body. Awesome. Let's forget about what the legs are doing here. We're going to focus a little bit more on the spine. So it doesn't matter what position the legs are in, just make them comfortable. And we're going to bring one hand down, the other arm can lift. So rather than squashing down, lift up and away from that bottom hand. Yeah, good. And we're going to side reach. Yeah, lovely. Breathing into the center, breathing out, press into that bottom hand. So you're pressing the ribs up to the ceiling. Nice. Let's go for one more. Yeah, lovely. Underrated movement of the day. Oh, and then we'll do the same on the other side. So again, press down. So use those foundations and then finding the breath into the ribs. Nice. Breathing in and breathing out. Lovely. Good. Last one. Really nice. We're going to make it into a rotation here. So again, this those of you that have done this before, we focus on turning the ribs, not the arms. I'll show you why. In my body, I can twist with my arms, nothing else is joined in. So I'm going to see if I can turn my ribs and then I get that spinal rotation rather than just into the shoulders. So breathing in to lift up, turn the ribs towards one side, doesn't matter which one, and then bring the hands down. Yeah, good job. And then breathing in back into the center, turn the ribs. And suddenly you're like, oh my goodness, spine, how are you? Lovely. We're going to go for one more on each side, breathing in to come up, turn the ribs, and then wherever the hands come to. Good. Last one to that second side. Nice. Oh, that's the spot, isn't it? Awesome. Last movement here. Hands onto the legs. I'm going to sit this way so you can see what I'm going on about. We're going to come into this position. This will be very familiar. This is modern life. This is the shape that modern life sends us into. And we're going to do the opposite of that. So we're going to breathe in, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Yeah. Breathing out, rounding back. You can force the breath out with that movement. Breathing in, a little bit of space. Let's go for the last one. Rounding back and then breathing in. Awesome. We are going to come into a child's pose. There are lots of people in the world for whom child's pose is not their friend. So this is a really nice option. If for any reason bending into your knees, finding that deep flexion into your knees doesn't feel good, this is an awesome option. So you can have the forearms down and you've got your hips above your knees. Equally, if it feels okay in your body, you can come into child's pose. Whatever version we're using, I'm going to do the supported one. We're going to walk both hands over towards one side. So finding a stretch through the side of the ribs. Nice. And then take your time to come through the center. And we're going to go to that second side. Good. So, option, if you've got the hips lifted, we're going to press into the shoulders and then draw the shoulder blades together. Pressing into the shoulders, draw the shoulder blades together. So we're just moving the upper back. If you're in child's pose, bring the elbows to the knees. And then we're going to round back and then draw the heart forwards. So there is a little bit of an advantage if you're in child's pose here because it fixes the hips so that they don't try and take over for you. But you are able to do it in that high kneeling position as well. Awesome, guys. Okay, so if you rewatch the recording of this, that is our spinal articulation. That is healthy range of movement through every single joint in the spine, different ranges of movement that we've got available to us. That is going to set you up beautifully. So if you kind of just want to rewatch and you don't have time, just that little segment is brilliant, just to kind of unstick and get everything going. We're going to bring up the heart rate a little bit. So we're going to make some more dynamic movement. So on my imaginary mat, I'm going to step towards the top and I'm going to breathe in, lift the arms up. Nice, breathe out, reach forwards. Keep your knees soft. Yeah, hello hamstrings. Yeah, hello. And then hands can come down. We are going to step back and find a plank. Nice, you can have the knees up or the knees down, it doesn't matter. And then from here, let's make our way down onto the belly. Good. Forearms forwards. Forearms onto the ground. And we're going to lift into the chest. So my ribs are staying down, my forearms are forwards, and I'm finding that engagement into the shoulders. Hands back underneath the shoulders, pressing back, and we're going to find a downward dog. Something that I'm going to say about downward dog is please don't try and bring the heels down. In lots of people's bodies, trying to bring the heels down is going to make the upper body round. So instead of thinking about the heels coming down, think about bringing the belly towards the thighs. So really bend into the knees. Yeah, nice. And then you might bring one heel down and then the other. So it's much more about space through the spine. And you'll notice that when you get space in your spine, oh my goodness, my legs get a lot more space as well. Brilliant. We are going to step it towards the top of the mat. So take your time. We can take about a few steps to come forwards. Reach the arms forwards. Nice. And then strong back to standing. Really nice, guys. Lovely. Let's go for another couple. So breathing in, lifting up. Breathing out, arms forwards. Spicy, spicy. Nice. Sneaky. Let's bring the hands down and the feet can come back. Find your plank. Nice. Knees up or down, doesn't matter. Make your way down onto the ground. Forearms onto the ground. Lift the chest away. So again, you're not getting weird and back bending, but making space into the shoulders. Hands underneath the shoulders, press back and find your way to downward dog. A really nice option is to come via almost like a little child's pose. So rather than just trying to hench it from plank, and then we end up getting into our lower back, start to find it as a way of unfurling, bit of a ripple through the spine again. And then we're going to make our way back up to the top of the mat. Really good. And then rising up. This time bending into the knees. Good. So again, what I'm not doing here is big kind of squatty type movement. I'm seeing if I can sink my weight down so I can feel my calf muscles, the soleus muscles here starting to wake up. And then from here, let's bring the hands in towards the chest. Good. We're going to bring both hands down. To begin with, let's bring the left foot back, left knee down. Good. Right arm lifts, so you're twisting towards the bent knee. It doesn't matter if you've done it the other way because we're going to do that in a second anyway. Right hand down, twisting away from the knee. Let's go for one more on each side there. So twisting towards the knee, good. And then twisting away from the knee. Really nice. Hands are going to come, press into that front big toe. And we're going to rise up. Now I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about this because I'm a little bit obsessed here. So how does it feel when you're kind of just finding a really lazy position here? You're not really paying attention to where the leg is. It is very likely, so if I'm not paying attention, that my knee is going to want to drop into the center a little bit. So notice what happens when you press into your big toe. So when you press into your big toe, It might start to come out, the knee starts to stabilize a little bit. In my body, I feel it up into my right glute. So just from that big toe connection, you're getting the whole of the alignment into the knee and into the glutes, just from that tiny, tiny little press. So let's keep that awareness into the front big toe, hands to the shoulders. And we're going to find that twist. Again, not with the shoulders, with the ribs. So turn the ribs towards one side. Nice, back into the center. And then ribs towards that second side. Notice what happens with the big toe. Is it wanting to kind of chill out a little bit? Is the knee wanting to have a party on its own? See if you can keep it all connected. Our bodies are amazing and they want to work together. Really nice. Let's bring hand to the hip. Doesn't matter which one. We're going to do both on each side. So let's reach all the way up and over, back into the center, reaching all the way up and over on that second side. Really nice. Let's go for one more on each side. Really good. Awesome. And we're going to bring the hands down and step forwards again. So back to the imaginary top of the mat for me, and then rising up. Okay, again, we're going to find that little squat down. I would encourage you here to play around with the position of the feet. The position of the feet is hugely going to change how this feels. So if we bend into the knees and sit back and your toes are slightly in, it's going to feel very different to if you've got your feet out slightly. Neither's better, just a conversation with your body. So give yourself an opportunity to play around. Press into the big toes, turn the toes out slightly, and sink the weight back. Nice. And then breathing in, turn the feet back to neutral, and then sink the weight back. Good. And then toes ever so slightly in. The thing to look out for here, though, you don't want the knees to kind of drop into the center. So toes slightly turned in, and then see if you can keep them going forwards. Oh, hello, glute muscles, you wonderful things. I've forgotten all about you. So we're going to go for one more there. Nice, and then the hands can come down. We're going to bring that right foot back, right knee down. Let's twist towards the knee, and then breathing in back into the center, twisting away from the knee. Nice. And again, it will depend on what's happening with that back foot as well. If you've got the foot flat, it will feel different than if you've got the foot flexed. And then we're going to press rising up. Really nice. So again, notice what's happening in that front big toe. If you're able to press into it, if you're going to get the knee to join in, hands towards the shoulders, twist towards one side with the ribs, not the shoulders. Back into the center, twisting towards the second side. It's a tiny, tiny movement. So with our shoulders want to do a really big movement. When we're doing it with our spine, it's much more contained. Nice. Then we're going to find that side reach, hand towards the hip, reaching up. Side reach, doesn't matter which arm, we're going to do both sides. Back into the center, side reach. Yes, guys, well done. Let's go for one more for luck on each side. Oh my goodness, time is flying, guys. Maybe not for you, but it is for me. So we're going to come to our stability team. So we're going to come down to lying today. If it's your first time, when we play around with stability, we're looking at stabilizing the space between the ribs and the hips, this lovely kind of gap in between, so that when we're moving our shoulders or our hips, nothing else is taking over and doing it for us. So the way that we do that is we take a breath in, and then as we breathe out, we're not looking to kind of press forwards into the muscles, into the stomach. We're looking to breathe in and then breathe out. Get that sense of hugging in. It's like you're not that I would know, tightening a corset. I imagine what that feels like anyway. That kind of sense of everything hugging into the sides. A really good way to check this is to poke into the sides of the body. And my muscles are engaged here, and I'm still able to talk, and I'm still able to breathe. So that's a good thing to kind of check in with. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about recruiting those muscles. We're going to come down to lying. So lying on the side, you might have your palm onto the ground. You might be propping your head up with the hand, either's fine. Something to bear in mind though is, are you dropping the weight into the waist? So if you took this position and then stood it up, would you be kind of like this? We're seeing if we can hug the waist in a little bit, as if you want to slide a hand underneath. So from here, So almost like you want to slide a hand underneath. You can have the other hand in front of you. And then we're going to see if we can recruit into those muscles. So breathing in and breathing out. That sense of everything hugging into the center. Nice. And then from here, bend into the knees and bring the heels a little bit closer towards the bottom. And I'm going to see if we can lift that top knee and then easing down. So anyone that's done any kind of Pilates, this will be very familiar. So sports stretch combines yoga, Pilates, and physio-based movements to kind of really start to target specific muscle groups. So what we're not looking for is the biggest possible movement that you can make. We're seeing if it's quite a small movement contained, and see if you can keep lifting into the space underneath the waist. And we're still breathing. Oh my goodness, so much to think about. Good, last one. Really nice. Top leg stays where it is, straighten the bottom leg, please. And then breathing in, lifting up, exhaling, easing down. So again, notice, is the rest of my body taking over here? Am I kind of just rolling around onto that hip? Am I able to keep that stability so that as I find that movement into the leg, nothing else is moving? These are the hip adductors. These are the spicy little muscles that when we get particularly tired, we start to drop the hips out side to side. It's called Trendelenburg, where you kind of drop out to the side when you get tired. Nice. So at this point, the top of the hip's probably talking quite loudly to us. So we're going to see if we can straighten that top leg and then ease up and then ease down. Nice. Again, keep that awareness into the side of the waist. If you feel like you've lost that engagement into the core, you can add it in again. So breathing in, breathing out. Nice. What we're not looking for here is this, lovely as that is. Your homework, guys, is to go and look up. Victoria Beckham has a bizarre habit of posing for photo shoots in that position. We're not looking to do that, lovely as that is. Keep the movement really small. Sometimes it's good to explore doing a big movement and you can literally feel, oh yeah, that's totally different muscles. Nice. Last thing to explore here is circling that top leg. I find this really flipping hard. So I'm a little bit hypermobile, which means that stability, it takes a lot of focus for me for my muscles to do that. So in my body, if it had its way, it would be having like a whole little party at the moment, rolling around. We're going to see if we can really isolate that movement. Slow, steady, nothing else moving, even though it really wants to. Amazing. At this point, that top leg is probably being quite loud. So we're going to draw the knee across and go, oh my goodness, body, you're amazing. Thank you so much. All is forgiven. Brilliant. We're going to do the same on the other side so you're not walking in circles. Before we do that, let's roll onto the back. And we're going to find a few more of those roll through the spine. So rolling through the spine to come up. And then easing back down bone by bone. Nice. Rolling through the spine to come up. Good. And then easing down. This time we're going to get the glutes involved. So come up into your bridge. And then we're going to release on one side. So I'm keeping my left glute engaged. And then I'm going to engage through the right and then release the left. So I'm going to show you from this angle so you can see my hips are kind of staying quite high. And then I'll show you from this angle so you can see that movement from one side to the other. So my hips are wanting to shift out a little bit to one side as one glute fires up and then doesn't. Another option to explore here is what happens when you press into the toes and you find that same engagement into the glutes, but you're pressing into the feet as well. In my body, when I'm pressing into my feet, my glutes are like, yes, come on. I'm firing up much more. Again, whole body connected. Nice. And then rolling back down through the spine. Well done, guys. We're going to find our way onto the other side. So whichever side we weren't on a minute ago. Nice. You can have your arm flat. You can have your head. Again, notice what's happening with the lower ribs here. Are they dropping down into the ground? Are you able to get that sense of kind of lifting up and away a little bit? Breathing in, breathing out. engaging through those muscles. Nice. Bend into the knees, lifting top knee, exhaling, releasing. Nice. So keep the muscles engaged. Really nice. Good. So again, not the biggest possible shape that you can make. Keep it maybe a little bit smaller than you would even intuitively go for. And then you're really going to start to target those fantastic little muscles that stabilize the sides of the hips. Nice. Last one. Good. Top leg stays where it is. Bottom leg straightens. Breathing in to lift up. Exhaling down. So these are our bent knee turnouts. You can also do this standing up as well. But I find it easier on the ground because you've got more feedback from gravity about what the rest of your body's doing. Nice. Last one. Good. Let's straighten that top leg. Awesome. Again, you can flex into the feet here. It's going to get into the calves. Lifting top leg, easing down. Nice. Lifting top leg, easing down. We are not looking for a huge movement here. Nice. Last one. Recruit into those muscles. We're going to add that movement, the circular movement into that top leg. So as I say, this is where my body is like, okay, to really, really challenge it to stay with that engagement into the muscles in the core. And then a few circles in the other direction. Nice. Notice if the ribs are taking over all the shoulders. It's okay, I'll do that instead. Good, let's bring that top knee down and say, oh my goodness, top thigh, you're the best. Thank you so much. Awesome. From here, let's make our way back up. Brilliant. Awesome. So we're going to play around with some gliding and flexibility. That's our stability stuff done. We're going to get into the muscles in the legs and the ankles in particular. So one of these is something that we played around with last time. I'm going to have, in my case, my left foot forwards and my right foot back. I've got both heels down, so I'm not going super lungy, just a little bit of a step difference between them. And one hand comes above, one hand comes below the knee. I'm going to turn this way so you can see what I'm talking about for now. And then I'm going to start to bend that front knee and then straighten it. And then bend the front knee and then straighten it. If you can really feel that into the back calf, by the way, you can step that back calf in a little bit. So if it's like, oh my goodness. If the video is not cutting out ambient sound, at the moment you are being treated to my daughter singing at the top of her lungs with her headphones on. It's quite a treat, guys. So we're going to bend into that front knee and then straighten it. This time, bring that leg towards straight, and we're just going to move lower back. Tiny, tiny movement. Lift the tailbone, and then scoop it down. Sometimes it can help to have the hands onto the hips. Lift the tailbone up, scooping it down. Nice, tiny, tiny movement. Oh my goodness, hamstring. Good. Really nice. And then we're going to bring the other leg forwards, other leg back. So again, not super lungy, particularly if that back calf is shouting. One hand above, one hand below the knee, bend the knee, and then straightening. When I say straighten, we're never looking to lock out the joints. So keep it, if you do have a tendency to overstretch, keep a little bit of a micro bend into that space as well. Don't need to have a completely locked out leg. Nice, last one. This time the leg can stay towards straight, and it's just the tailbone that lifts and then scooping down. Tailbone that lifts, scooping down. Tiny, tiny movement. Lift the tailbone up, scooping it down. Good job, guys. Last one. Really nice. From here, we're going to bring one foot out to the side. So depending on your mobility and depending on what you've got around the house, options are to bring hand towards, so if you've got a chair by you and you don't want to come down too far, I'll show you where we're going. So we're going to come down to this sort of position. Equally, if you want to use a chair and you're coming into this sort of position, fantastic. So we're going to come into a side lunge. So I'm turning the toes out to the side and then coming down. Nice. And then take your time to walk all the way over to the other side. So to begin with, I'm keeping that foot down onto the ground rather than toes up to the ceiling. And then we can either walk, if you want an extra challenge and your body feels okay in this position, You can explore doing it, but mum, no hands. And then over to the other side. But also hands down is for the win. Hands onto the sofa or onto the side of the bed is also brilliant. Nice. If you can easily do it like this, see if you can keep it low. Yeah, even lower. Nice. So find where's right for you. We're just finding that gliding at the moment, forwards and backwards. And then we're going to pause on one side. Some of us will have the heel up, some of us will have the heel down. A lot of that's to do with one, ankle mobility, and two, hip range of movement there. So it doesn't matter about whether the heel's up or down. Turn the toes up and then turning them down. Turning the toes up and then turning them down. Let's go for one more. Turning the toes up, so we're getting into the hamstring. Turning the toes down, getting into the inner thigh. We're now going to bring that knee down. Good. Hands can come down, and we're going to rock forwards and then back, and then forwards and then back. I'm going to change position so that you can see what I'm doing. So foot to the side, knee down, rocking forwards, rocking back. Nice. Good. Last one. Really nice. And then from here, we're going to walk over to the other side. So again, to begin with, keeping the hips quite high, keeping the knee up. Nice. Turn the toes up, turn the toes down. Option to do this onto the sofa, your yellow velvet chair that you have in your room, side of your bed. Nice. And then let's bring that knee down to the ground. And again, we're going to find that rocking forward. So I'm going to bring my foot down, rocking forwards, rocking back. I'm going to change position again so you can see rocking forwards, rocking back. Really nice, guys. Awesome. We are nearly at time. So we're going to finish with some last little options to explore. We can come into our high kneeling. Option to come into high kneeling and have the toes tucked. And then see if you can scoot the tailbone down and start to bring the weight a little bit further back here. Nice. Another option to explore, depending on how this feels in your body, is to bring the hips back onto the toes. Nice. This is great as well. So if your feet are not used to, that plantar fascia is not used to stretching in that way, having the hips high is great. See if you can get the little toe down as well, so stretching all the way through. Nice. See if you can breathe. Really nice. A really good movement to, if you combine breath with things that are less comfortable. So breathing in and breathing out. Nice. Last one. Breathing in, breathing out. Yeah, lovely, guys. Hands can come down. We're going to tap the feet out. Say, oh my goodness, thank you. Option again to come into high kneeling with the feet flat, or to come to kneeling with the feet flat. Good. So that will depend on how your knees feel, how the tops of your ankles feel. Doesn't matter which version you go with. Nice. And again, we can use the breath here, breathing in and breathing out. Let's go for one more. Breathing in and breathing out. Brilliant, guys. Hands can come down. Let's tap into the feet. Really nice. Let's make our way back up into standing. So a little challenge for you to explore. You can either go, lovely Esther, thank you very much, I'm standing. Or you can start to bring the weight back onto the toes. Maybe start to lift the knees. Maybe bring the heels down. And then come back to standing. Yeah. Either way, we're ending in the same position, right? So from here, let's lift up onto the toes and then drop the weight back into the heels. Lifting up onto the toes, back onto the heels. Nice. Last one. Lifting up onto the toes, dropping the weight back onto the heels. Lovely. Last little movement. Bring the weight onto one leg, holding onto the knee. Again, in my house, I've got really low ceilings, so I can hold onto my ceiling, but you can be holding onto the wall. I'm going to circle into the ankle. Nice. Oh my goodness, ankles, you're the best. Thank you so much. And then a few circles in the other direction. Brilliant. And then let's focus on the other side. So standing up. So we have played with ankle mobility and strength, changing direction in the ankles. We've played with spinal articulation, so sending the spine in as many different directions as possible. We've played with stability, core stability, particularly into the hips, but also into the legs. We've explored how different positions of the feet can change how those muscles fire up or switch off a little bit. And we've definitely played with quite a lot of ankle and leg gliding and that sort of thing. So hopefully that has covered the requests for ankles and legs and feet. But as always, if there are any questions at all, I will stay on after the session. And equally, if there are any questions on the group, then do feel free to pop them on. I'm going to stop the recording there. Thank you so much for joining me. Here's my daughter who's been waiting patiently at the door. I'll stop the recording.